Welcome to today's Explainer. Look, if you're a focused learner looking to really unpack the hidden mechanics of massive global events, you are in the exact right place. Today we're exploring a totally fascinating and honestly deeply ironic dual legacy. We're looking back at the 2006 FIFA World Cup in Germany. Because on one hand, this event was an absolute triumph of polished, billion-dollar infrastructure and modern marketing. But on the other hand, well, its most enduring memory is a raw, totally unpredictable and violent human flaw right there on the pitch. So how on earth do these two completely different legacies coexist? Let's find out.
Just to wrap our heads around the sheer scale we're dealing with today, I want you to look at this number, 26.29 billion. That is the staggering, estimated cumulative viewership compiled over the course of the 2006 tournament. Think about that for a second. We're talking about an audience size that honestly defies human comprehension. The final match alone drew in an estimated 715.1 million people. When an event reaches this kind of mind-boggling scale, every single detail, whether it's a massive commercial sponsorship or a split-second decision by a player, gets magnified to a historic level.
Section 1. The biggest show on Earth.
Okay, let's dive right into the sheer infrastructural scope of the tournament. Because to really appreciate the human drama at the very end, we first have to understand the massive machine that built the stage. This right here is the blueprint of a global juggernaut. We had 198 national teams from across the globe attempting to qualify. The event itself was spread out across 12 pristine host cities throughout Germany. But honestly, look at that bottom point. This entire spectacle was propped up by 15 massive FIFA partners. We're talking corporate titans like Adidas, Coca-Cola, and MasterCard. This was a heavily sponsored, meticulously planned, multi-billion-dollar commercial backdrop. Absolutely nothing was left to chance. Every camera angle, every stadium seat, every branded beverage was part of a polished corporate strategy.
Section 2. Revolutionizing the fan experience.
But this wasn't just a corporate success. It was a huge sociological one too. Let's shift our focus a bit to the impact on the host country itself, and how this tournament actually revolutionized the way we consume out-of-home media today. Consider the term fan mile. It literally became the German word of the year in 2006. During the tournament, these public viewing areas functioned kind of like modern market squares. Millions of visiting foreign fans alongside the locals just gathered in front of these giant video walls. It created this intensely emotional communal experience. In Germany, observers noted that the widespread display of national colors and peaceful celebration actually sparked a new patriotism. It was a massive cultural shift for the nation, facilitated entirely by this new way of viewing the sport together. And the concept was so radically successful that FIFA actually registered the trademark for FanFests the very next year, in 2007. The initiative even went on to win the German Marketing Prize for Sports. FIFA realized they had struck gold here. They succeeded in creating a comfortable, engaging environment where 95% of surveyed foreign fans felt it was a truly international vibe. They essentially packaged and trademarked the concept of communal joy, cementing it as an integral part of all future World Cups.
And this brilliantly illustrates our great pivot. On one side, you have the macro legacy, right? A wholesome, highly marketed, trademarked, billion-dollar success story. But then on the other side, you have the micro legacy, because despite all that intense planning, all that money, and all those corporate sponsors, the defining image of this World Cup would actually become an infamous, unscripted psychological breakdown on the pitch.
Section 3. The final's fateful moment. So I want you to zoom all the way in with me now. We are scaling down from 26 billion viewers and 15 corporate titans, right into a single stadium in Berlin. It's the final match, France versus Italy. The score is tied 1-1, and we are in the final 10 minutes of overtime. We're focusing entirely on two men. Now, to really understand what happened between France's legendary captain, Zinedine Zidane, and Italy's defender, Marco Materazzi, we have to look at the psychology. Researchers at the Rady School of Management actually coined a term for this, the Materazzi effect. They define it as the strategic use of anger and trash talk in competitive interactions to provoke a costly reaction from an opponent. The crucial point here is that this isn't just mindless name-calling. It's a calculated psychological tactic used to force an opponent into a mistake. And on the absolute biggest stage in the world, this tactic was executed flawlessly.
Let's walk chronologically through this rapid escalation. With just 10 minutes left in Zidane's entire professional career before he retires, Materazzi pulls his shirk. At 9 minutes remaining, Zidane offers a bit of standard trash talk back, basically saying, "If you want my shirt that badly, I'll give it to you at the end." But then, Materazzi triggers the trap. He shoots back with a deeply personal insult regarding Zidane's sister. And with 8 minutes remaining, Zidane completely loses his cool. He turns around and headbutts Materazzi squarely in the chest. In a split second, the polished corporate veneer of the entire World Cup was shattered by a brutal, deeply human act of fury.
Section 4. Anatomy of a red card. Which brings us to the immediate aftermath on the pitch. Obviously, everyone knows Zidane was sent off with a red card, but there is a fascinating behind-the-scenes secret regarding how that penalty was actually enforced. Let's pull back the curtain on this. Step 1. The main on-field referees completely missed the most famous foul in history. The play had just moved on. Step 2. It was actually the fourth official on the sidelines, Medina Cantaleo, who saw the headbutt and had to report it to the main referee, Horacio Elizondo, through their headsets. But Elizondo now had a massive problem. He had to send off the most famous player in the world in his final game without anyone in the stadium actually knowing why. Which leads to step 3. Elizondo decides to fake a discussion on the pitch.
I mean, just listen to Elizondo's exact words here. He said, "I started talking to the assistant, pretending that he knew something. I wanted to make this acting to make people understand." The referee literally had to improvise a theatrical performance. He ran over to his assistant, who, by the way, also hadn't seen the foul, and pretended to consult with him just to justify the sudden red card to a highly confused stadium crowd. It's a brilliant, completely improvised piece of human management amidst absolute global chaos.
Section 5. An unlikely cultural legacy.
So Zidane gets ejected, the game goes to penalty kicks without him, and France loses. Let's zoom back out now to look at the deeply ironic and almost surreal cultural reaction to this event back in France. Despite the violent red card that arguably cost his team the championship, consider what happened next. The very next day, Zidane still won the Golden Ball Award for the tournament's best player, as voted on by journalists. The French squad flew back to Paris and received a rapturous hero's welcome. They were greeted personally by President Jacques Chirac. For a country that has historically faced challenges integrating its minorities, the multicultural pride generated by this team, with many fans proudly waving Algerian flags alongside the French tricolor, acted as this incredibly soothing balm for the nation. The violence on the pitch somehow didn't erase the cultural triumph off of it.
And if you want the absolute perfect example of just how absurd this aftermath was, look no further than this fact. Just 3 weeks after the crushing defeat, a chirpy pop tune called Coup de Boule, which translates to headbutt, literally stormed the French pop charts. Rather than wallowing in national disgrace over the foul, the French public embraced the sheer human comedy of the moment. They turned a brutal chest butt into a massive danceable musical hit. You really can't make this stuff up.
So what does this all mean? It leaves us with this final, overarching question to consider. When we look back at the 2006 World Cup, do we remember it as the ultimate triumph of 15 corporate sponsors, perfectly organized host cities, and trademarked fan fests? Or do we remember it for those 10 seconds where a legendary athlete fell victim to the Materazzi effect, lost his temper, and committed an unscripted act of violence? It seems that no matter how much money and infrastructure you pour into making an event perfect, it is always the raw, unpredictable flaws of human nature that truly write history. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this leaves you looking at global events in a completely different light.